Welcome back to Hoppline, and after using the foil drive Gen 2 for more than 100 hours, I think this is the perfect moment for a long time review and resume. How did it hold up against the elements and my use and abuse? A classic video, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here we go. Super quick disclaimer up front, like most of you probably know, I'm a foil drive brand ambassador, but I'm making this video 100% as Hoppline. So foil drive doesn't know that I'm making this video, they're not paying me, and this is my honest and unbiased opinion. So let's get right into it. I think the Australians would say, put the billy on, this might take a while. I want to start this video with just some background on my foiling, my personal foiling, and how I got into foil driving. So I'm a little bit short on breath because I'm on COVID right now. So if I'm taking a little extra breath here and there, just be patient. I'm doing a lot of wing foiling, I'm doing a lot of palm foiling and prone, SUP, downwind whenever I can. The only things I'm not doing is kite foiling and wind foiling because it's just too much equipment and hassle, and I already own a lot of equipment. I remember the day when I saw Gen 1 for the first time, and I really liked the idea of having the motor pod so close to your board, and I could see a user case. But I'm a studied industrial designer, and at the same time I kind of wish I had a Gen 1. I was like, no, it's a DIY project. It looked a little bit like, yeah, someone just put some random parts together and they had the battery on top, which I didn't like. The cable was just running down. But like I said, I had a user case for it, so I kept watching foil drive. And I still remember the day a friend of mine, he sent me the link to Gen 2, and there were some rumors up front, and I looked at it and I looked at the pictures. And with my background as an industrial designer, I could not only tell that it is a really nice and polished product, but I could see the thoughts, the R&D, and all the physics that went into this unit. Having it placed the battery in between the board and the mast just makes totally sense. In terms of physics, it's there where it belongs, and I wanted my assist or my e-foil to be as close to performance foiling as possible, and that's what I saw right here. At the same time, I could tell that the unit, the Gen 2, was not just Gen 1 taken to the next level, it was taken steps ahead. I could see it was meant to be made for mass production, just from my background. And I remember I was like, I'm not only going to get one, I thought about becoming a retailer for Germany or even Europe. So I got in contact with Foil Drive. We did a lot of writing. I even called Dominic back then. Sorry for that. I remember we were on the phone and I was like, I could become a retailer because I haven't even tried it yet, but I can see that this is the future. It's different. It's not an e-foil, it's a foil assist. There were no foil assists on the market. This was something totally new. And we chit-chatted for a very long time, and we decided that I just give it a go. So I bought a slim, which was a really hard decision, but because there were not many people having a slim and a max back at the time, so it was hard to actually decide on which one to go for, and I decided to go for the slim because that was my user case. Just riding tanker waves here on my local river, and I knew I don't need much energy, and I want to be as light as possible and as close to performance foiling as I can get. I ordered my first unit from Australia because back then there was no European warehouse, and I had to go through all the trouble of importing and paying tax on an already expensive product. And I do remember my first night, which was rather sleepless. I've been watching foil drive for a longer period of time, so there was a certain amount of trust in the company, and I saw the potential of being just what I needed and an extraordinary product, but at the same time, you never know. So I was a little bit skeptical, and I remember taking the foil drive out for the first couple of runs. I would go upstream on purpose, which is, just not really efficient. I could just swim out. This is how I do it today. I swim out and then the current will just take me down. And if I'm catching tanker waves, the tanker wave will take me back up to where I come from, and I can more or less exit at the same spot, or I can go a little further upstream and then just zoom around. And I can do up to 6 kilometers with just the slim and the tiny battery. But if you're going upstream a little bit first and then go into the tanker waves, you have to go all the way back. And I was doing this on purpose because there was not the trust in the system. It worked fine, but it was just another level of safety for me to not go down, because then there's no way you can swim against the current. And I remember it was after maybe 20 or 25 sessions where I, for the first time, I didn't go upstream, I just swam out and the current was taking me down. And this was taking a risk because I did kind of trust the system by then, but still, you're not getting back. It's not a big problem. You can still swim somewhere and then it's the walk of shame up for like an hour or something. But I was taking the risk and it just worked perfectly fine. And that's what I'm doing these days. I just try to save battery wherever I can, because the slim does have a restricted amount of battery capacity. So I'm actually swimming out, drifting a little bit further down, which will reduce the amount of way I have to come back. And then I do long tanker wave runs. And then if they are really long, like 6-7 kilometers, I just pump in between to save batteries. And I'm always coming back with probably 20-30% in the battery, just because it's better for the battery. And I do want a level of safety. You never know. There's tankers, there's boats, there's a lot of stuff on the river here. So safety is a really big issue for me. So with more time on the water, my confidence in the system was growing, and I experimented with a lot of boards and foils and my type of riding, and the skill level just went super high up. And I remember at the beginning when I was riding tanker waves and I would crash, and the foil drive allows you to get back into the same wave, and not every tanker has a good wave. But I would kind of try to get away from the tanker to go back into flat water and then do the takeoff in flat water and re-approach the tanker wave, because it was just too hard for me to do a takeoff in the wake. And then I worked on my takeoff and I developed a different style of takeoff where I would not get on my knees first, but do like more of a prone surf pop-up. And my skill level on the foil drive and on riding tanker waves in my wave game just went it just went skyrocket. And I could not only tell this on my local spot in the tanker waves, but also going without the foil drive, prone surfing, I was able to catch waves, I was able to pull out and connect for the first time. And this is where I realized how good of a product the foil drive Gen 2 is. And it's not only good in helping you, it's a tool for whatever you want, for wing foiling, pump foiling, or wave foiling. It just works, and I think this is the beauty of the system. And before I get into the problems my friends and me were encountering, because a lot of them just from watching me and how my skill level went up in just a super short period of time, and they bought a foil drive as well. But before I get into that, I want to briefly touch another topic, and that is Dominic, who is now running Foil Drive Europe. And he called me one day and asked if because I made a few videos on Foil Drive on my Hoppline channel, if I wanted to join them and the team from Australia at the Fairman Foil Festival. And it was short notice, but I went there. I think it was 6 or 7 days. And I got to know Ben and Caitlin, who are from Foil Drive in Australia. I also got to know Andrea, who's with John Paul and Dominic running Foil Drive Europe now. And I think that's a really nice background, not to only know the product, but to know the people and get in touch with the people for a longer period of time that are behind the product. And for me, and this is very personal, but it feels like family. And I did spend a lot of time with Andrea and Dominic, and we've done events together. And we just came back from boat and we stayed at an Airbnb all together. And we had a really good time. We're not partying, it's just, it's hard work. But you can feel how motivated everyone is and how everyone just likes the product, not in terms of sales, but in terms what it does for him. So Andrea is doing a lot of downwinders, Dominic's doing everything. I've got my tanker wives, and John Paul is just getting into it and he really likes it. So that's just another background for me, that I not only know the product, but I know the people that are behind it. And that's another twist in what foil drive means for me, just as a little background. I was honestly super surprised on how well the foil drive worked for me in solving my problem of not being able to progress in tanker waves, because if I would pump into them and crash, then I would not get up again, and that was my user case, and it helped me a lot. But at the same time, it just worked day in and day out, 100 hours a year in cold German conditions. It just worked, and I lost the controller. That was a problem I had. One of my mate, he broke a latch and he got a replacement for that very quick, and right now they addressed the problem by having a new ledge that's version 2. It's stronger and you can't break it if you hammer it. But I think that's not the impressive part. I think the impressive part for me was Paul, one of the owners, addressing the problem in a YouTube and Instagram video and just saying, we are in this together. And I think this is an attitude I would like to see from all brands. So if you do have a problem, and every company will have problems down the road, if you're making something for mass productions, there are things going wrong, and this was just a minor thing, but they're not trying to hide it. But he was addressing it, he was coming up with a solution, and he was offering the solution to anyone for free and giving them new ledges until they had ledge version 2. And that's something I really appreciated, not as a foil drive ambassador, but as Hoppline, as me, as Nico. I wish, like I said before, every company, when they make a mistake, and it's not only about product, it's about life, it's about making a mistake, which is just normal, but just say, yes, I made a mistake and this is how we're gonna fix it. And that's what they did. And because I know most of the people from Foil Drive, I have never met Paul, but just you kind of it feels like I know him from all his videos. I think we do get along very well, all the ones I know, and yeah, it's just a mentality. It's every company, or most of the surfers companies, start as surfers for surfers, and then some will go run into like a business process where they have to make money, they get more employers, they have to make more money for the employers and stuff like that, and then they not surf that much anymore. But I still have the feeling, at least at this point, that Foil Drive is still a surf dedicated company. It's not about making super large figures, it's about getting everyone on the water and giving everyone a tool that helps you to progress, no matter if you're a beginner or if you are a professional athlete who wants to just tweak a little bit of his foiling and become better. And it's not that you're using a foil drive all the time. You can take it off and just go, and that's the beauty of it. I just came back from a 5-week trip to Thailand, and I thought about taking the foil drive, and trust me, Thailand, it's foil drive heaven. And so many times I was sitting on the beach and I was like, man, if I had a foil drive, I could be out there zooming around and catching waves. But I didn't take it on purpose because I wanted to work on my prone foiling without the foil drive. And I did, and I progressed, and I could feel how much better I was right from the beginning, from surfing and spending 100 hours on the foil drive. So there's a really, for me, it's a really, yeah, it's a circle. It's not only the product which works for me, it's how problems are addressed. And another thing, I think one of the things I didn't like, if we come back to the term the good, the bad and the ugly, I think the ugliest thing about the foil drive Gen 2 was that the cable of the motor was fixed into the motor pod. And I do understand this from like an industrial designer purpose, because you're trying to get rid of any seal, of any connection, because any connection you have, it can break, and they are really hard to come up with something that's working for everyone on a use and abuse daily basis. And you always have someone out there who's putting sand in there and stuff like that. So there's a lot of considerations going into making a final product, and I do understand how they might have opted for not having a removable cable, but then asking, I don't know how much it was, but I think it's 400-500 euros for an extra motor with a cable to change the length and the position of the motor, and that was really steep for a lot of people. And I was kind of fine for myself with it because I was running a 15 centimeter cable and I just stick to that. But I totally do get the point that a lot of people that said, I have someone else and I want to teach someone else, I need a longer cable, or I want to run it as an e-foil in the e-foil position. For them, it was just a super steep price. And I'm really glad they addressed this problem by having a removable cable. And I think that shows that they're really listening to the customers and the consumers. And it's a steep product in price. And a lot of people say it needs to come down, but I don't really agree. I do wish everyone would have the chance to ride a foil drive and have a foil drive because it is a shortcut in your foiling. But at the same time, if meaning bringing the price down will give you a lower quality, less R&D, less support. And that's something, I mean, there's so many events and people can try it and this all needs to be paid. So I do understand that they are asking more money and I'd rather have them asking a little bit more and having a steeper price tag and offering all that instead of having a cheaper product and then being left alone. And another thing, and that's something Dominic said to me, he said, Gen 2, and that's something he's got from Paul, is here to stay. And that's another thing I really appreciate. The key main unit of Gen 2 is not something that's going to be replaced within the next couple of weeks or years. That's from what I heard. So there's going to be upgrades. Like they just upgraded the battery and the motor. So there's a stronger one, the HP high power version, mainly for people heavier riding small boards. So it's not a must-have. But if you want to, you can add it onto your existing system. And whenever I buy a board, a foil, or a wing, so many times I get an email just a couple of weeks later and it says, oh, there's rumors about the next version. And I kind of hate that because I want to enjoy a product for a certain amount of time without having the feeling it's going to become obsolete in just a couple of weeks. And that's another thing I really enjoy about my foil drive. My Slim, I do have a Slim and the Max right now. Even though there's new things coming, like updates, new remotes, I don't feel like mine is out of date. I'm still enjoying it, and I'm a person who always wants to have the newest gear. So I kind of tempted to buy all the additional stuff, but like with the HP motor and HP battery, I don't need it. I've got the smallest battery and I honestly don't feel any need to buy it. So that's good for me personally. So there's a lot of good things about the foil drive Gen 2, even on the long run, and a few bad things, and I think most of them have been addressed, and I don't know any ugly things from my experience and from the experiences my friends have. Some people might call the price tag one of the ugly sides, but like I said before, I'd rather have something of higher quality and something I can really rely on, not only for my surfing, but on a long-term perspective. And I've got another way of looking on it, which is more personal. I don't judge foiling gear by how much money it costs in the beginning. I judge it by how much money I lose on the long run. So if I buy a foil, a front wing, they usually sell pretty good, so I'm not losing much money. If I buy it for 500, I sell it for 400. In the end, it only costed me 100 euros. Boards are probably the worst. If you buy a board and you try to sell it, that's where I lose most money. And from what I've seen on the local eBay and stuff like that, the foil drive Gen 2 sells very well in the aftermarket. So for me, it's like looking at it, I paid for it for my own money, but I know I'm getting like a super large amount back once I decide to sell it. And because the Gen 2 is not gonna be updated anytime soon, because you can buy all the add-ons and the extras and spare parts, I think there's a pretty good chance you're not losing too much money if you want to get a foil drive just for a certain amount of time. So that's a pretty nice thing, I think. So there's one more thing I quickly want to talk about, and that is competition. There's a lot of foil assists coming to the market these days, and a lot of companies are planning to release one in the future. And a lot of people ask me, like, should I buy this or should I buy this? And my honest opinion is foil drive might not be better. It's just they're ahead in development roughly a year, because they've been on the market and they have made the mistakes in Gen 1, and then they came up with a really polished product Gen 2, and now they fixed all the minor issues they had. It just works, and I do believe that other companies will get there, but they are not right there at the moment. So like I said, foil drive might not be better. They're doing a really good job, but they're just ahead by a year or something. So we will have someone catching up sooner or later, which is good. Then it's competition and they are pushing each other. But at the moment, if you would ask me, would I buy something else? Probably not. I would still go for a foil drive. Might change in the future, but right now it's just perfectly tailored to my needs. And every time I go out, I'm just super impressed by the performance, and it just works for me. When I got into foil driving, I thought I would sell it after maybe a year or something, and it surprised me how much time I actually spend on the foil drive. And I still love it, I still use it, and I don't see me selling it in the future right now, because there's still so much to learn and so much to progress, and that's where I use it from, beside all my winging, pumping, prone, downwind, and SUP. So it's a really nice addition. It's a perfect fit for me. And I know the whole video might sound like a commercial, but it's not. It's my honest, unbiased review as Nico, as Hoppline. My voice is going, still on COVID, like I said. But yeah, if you have questions concerning your user case, my user case, or if you're running into problems, leave me a comment and I will try to get back to you. And I'm more than happy to see you back on this channel. Make sure to follow. There's a lot of great stuff coming up on foil drive, on other things. So see you soon.